Honestly, I have a confession to make. I'm a boring researcher. And just to make it even worse, one of my interests is boredom, which is kind of ironic. And secondly, when people hear about my research, they usually say with some kind of excitement in the voice, "Oh, are you a mountaineer as well?" No, I'm still just a boring researcher. I'm sorry. But then again, two negatives might make one positive, right? So, speaking about mountaineering, Everest. I guess that most of us have some kind of preconception about it, how hard it is, how exciting it must be to be over there. It looks like this. And up until today, 283 people have actually died, because it died a guy just the other day, unfortunately. But if we put this into perspective, the idea that it's extreme, if we put it into perspective, because Everest has been summited 7,700 times almost. So the death versus kind of the number of summits, it's not too bad actually. And while I'm at it, I'm going to try to continue to challenge your assumptions about Everest. Because when I speak to mountaineers, when we do our observations about what's going on at an expedition, what we come to realize it's not necessarily the avalanche that's the big danger. It's not the fall, not even the impact that's the big danger, but it's actually the process leading up to it. And this process then, Everest is boring. It's the boredom that actually kills people. And Everest is boring. And actually, when we have looked at other types of organizations as well, in extreme environments like this, but also in ordinary organizations, what we find is, of course, boredom is all around us. We need to live with it. We need to handle it. And if we doesn't do that, then we end up with a problem. And the problem is that it may get us into trouble. We might take too big risks. Or it might jeopardize the big goal, the great vision that we have. So we need to manage the boredom somehow. The upside is, if we are able to manage this boredom, then we're going to reap great rewards, because it's going to glue the organization together. We're going to come together as a team. We're going to create memories. We're going to accomplish great things. And that is why we need to attend to boredom. This is the team that we followed for 2 months. And the reason why boredom is dangerous is that we might get, it paves the way for frustration. And because things aren't going according to what we expected. Or we miss the sense of meaning in the activities that we are doing. And if we miss the reason why we are doing things, either we start doing things that we shouldn't do in order to accomplish a certain goal, or we take too big risks in order to accomplish the goal because we just want to get it over and done with. Or third, we're gonna just simply quit. Either of those options are equally bad in order to obtain a great goal. And this team then, we followed them for 2 months, and about 5 days after arriving at base camp, what we could observe was that they started to pick a fight with each other. They started arguing. They started kind of questioning whatever they could come up with. And soon, also what we saw was that they started questioning the entire plan. Because what they could see was that about 30 other expeditions, they were moving up the mountain. And they knew that they had to sit idle in base camp for yet a few days. And of course, they wanted to move as well. They wanted to kind of have something to do, because they didn't have that much to do in base camp. So what they did was, of course, they started questioning the expedition leader and the sanity of the entire plan, because they wanted to get going just the next day. Of course, the expedition leader in in this situation, he had to explain why they were doing it. First of all, it was a matter of acclimatization, because at this altitude, speed equals risk in many situations. Because if your body is not ready in order to take on the altitude, you're going to end up with high altitude sickness. And trust me, high altitude sickness is not something you want to develop. I know that from personal reasons. And this is actually me. And we are on the way up to base camp. And one of the benefits of being a researcher and an organizational ethnographer is, of course, I get to spend time with amazing people and look at what they are doing. The downside is that sometimes it really feels like shit, to be honest. You suffer. And man, I did. I thought it was a lack of coffee. I drink way too much coffee. But I had this pounding headache. And it turned out it wasn't coffee. What had happened actually was that I had the altitude sickness. Down here, one way of measuring and seeing the signs of having altitude sickness is that you measure the blood oxygen level. And here at sea level, I bet that each and every one of you has got 100, 99 or 100. I was as low as 59. If you consult the healthcare, you should be hospitalized if you're below 70. Trust me, it wasn't that fun. But I can try to describe the feeling for you if in case you haven't experienced the altitude sickness. Perhaps you have experienced this one at least. And I don't know if any one of you have had one of these really, really bad hangovers. And you pledge that you won't touch another beer. Never ever in your life. And you're kind of ready to approach the closest person next to you and basically ask them to take you out of your misery. This is like that. You don't want to eat, you don't want to sleep, you don't want to be awake, you don't want to exist, you don't want to do anything. But the only thing to deal with altitude sickness is actually to lose altitude, to go down in altitude. And for obvious reasons, if you are, say, on 7,000 meters, it's really, really hard to move about. In particular, if you have developed the kind where the brain swells and you get unconscious and you die. But equally difficult is it if you get the other kind where your lungs fill up with fluid and you drown in your own fluids. It's kind of hard to move about in that case as well. So the point being was that the expedition members, they didn't really consider this when they were arguing against the expedition leader. They were bored. They wanted to get going. But they didn't consider the overall plan with the acclimatization. And also with the overcrowding at Everest. They had to wait in order for people to move upwards, but also for the bodies to acclimatize. So then one could ask, did the expedition leader just let boredom flourish and kind of exist? No, of course not. He implemented routines. Something as boring as routines worked against boredom. And one of those routines was celebrations. And imagine you have celebrations on 5,500 meters. And in this particular case then, it was a improvised wedding ceremony where actually two of the members of the expedition had come there on their honeymoon. She was a trekker and he was to climb Everest. And the expedition leader had heard about this and improvised a party. And we are on 5,000 meters, and we had alcohol, we had food, we had music, and so on. So imagine that you are on 5,500 meters or 5,000 meters now.
Did you hear us calling to you?
Yeah, you did hear the call. Okay.
It's like calling session for today.
Jake, take care.
And the importance of this is not perhaps the sound volume of the film, but it really brought the team together. One of the clients, the guy that was responsible of the music, he still goes under the nickname DJ Tor, because when they meet, as soon as they meet, they talk about DJ Tor. And that's pretty amazing. And also, when we talked to one of the clients, what he said was that, we talked to one of the most renowned expedition leaders on Everest. He had been there arranging expeditions for like 25 years or 20 years. And what he told us was that these parties, they are so incredibly important to the scene because they act as a safety event where people can let go of all their frustrations. And without them, far more people would die. The second kind of routine they implemented was different kind of social events in order to break the monotony of being on Everest, but also take people's mind off the harsh environments they were in, and also provide them with some kind of normality of things. Because basically they were in a harsh environment and they were far away from friends and family. And one of the more important part of this was this guy. Borat. It was a movie that they looked upon over and over again. They had a bunch of movies, but this one was they looked upon it several times. It says something about their taste of film, but that's another thing. And when we talked to one of the clients, what he said was that, well, these movie nights, it's one of the things that he remembers the best because it kept his mind off his family that was back home. The third kind of routine that they implemented was different kind of rituals. These rituals came to act as kind of on and off time. On time being time to focus, off time to okay, we can relax, take it easy for a bit, and also provide good luck. So this puja ceremony then, it served, even though neither of them was religious, it served the purpose of blessing the climbers and their tools, and also providing good luck on the mountain. And as the expedition leader said, well, I don't believe in this, but I take all the luck I can get on the mountain because it's dangerous business they are in. And a day after this ceremony, they went up. So, taking a step off from Everest then, this is something that applies to anyone, to any team, to any organization, to any individual. Because it's by celebrating the successes and providing the social arenas where we can meet and establishing rituals that we can achieve great things, that we come together as an organization, where we avoid rushing into things, where we avoid getting killed because we are simply bored. And as a leader of a team or an organization, whatever it is, we need to understand these dynamics. And to put it really, really simple, what we need is more after work, we need more fika, and we need rituals in organizations. And this is not something that comes automatically, but it's something that we need to deal with, each and every one of us. Thank you.